Hi, Barry.
Hello.
So, just in case there's anyone around who still hasn't heard of a chemtrail before we go any further, what's a quick definition of a chemtrail? It's all water vapour, isn't it?
Absolutely not. That is the story often given, that it's water vapour, like jets produce water vapour, which military jets do at high altitude. But commercial aircraft very rarely produce any trails behind naturally. What we're seeing now are trails of aerosols generated by special aerosols manufactured from fine aluminium and barium particles, many times with other metals as well. Cadmium has been noticed. There are patents on various mixtures of these aerosols, and they are sprayed through nozzles on aircraft, both military and commercial, just above the exhaust or the outflow of air and exhaust, and they expand into what we see a trail, and we see that all over the place, and those trails persist for probably minutes or even hours, and they're driven by the wind to expand into clouds, so they don't disappear at all. Well, you wouldn't expect them to, because they're metal particles.
So, in spite of all that, most people still think, for the main part, that they're water vapour, because what else would they be, and why would they do that?
Well, it does seem most incredible that governments would allow corporations and military to spray us with any metals, most of which are known to be toxic, for any amount that they wish to, and cover our skies completely sometimes.
But it seems they do. Is that not the case?
Absolutely do. There's no discussion about this. This is the big problem. There's no transparency. It's done in secret. The industry is highly compartmentalized, and so nobody knows what the next department is doing. The people that design the patents, the mixtures of metals and particles and the size of the particles, have no idea of the health issues, because that's done and dealt with in another department. And no reports are made about the health issues. Now, it's very obvious. If you spray people with aluminium, you have a whole number of problems, such as Alzheimer's, autism, forgetfulness, for example, because of all these particles can enter the blood-brain barrier through the breathing system. So we're breathing this all the time. It's always ending up in the soil, of course, in the rainwater. Recent tests that I've done, I've had laboratory tests on our rainwater, and the levels of aluminium are absolutely shocking. The last one was around 150 micrograms per litre, when in fact there should be absolutely zero, or very close to zero, aluminium in our rainwater.
That's pretty amazing proof, but for most people they would have no idea of this, and actually getting at the beginning of accepting that this is a chemical outrage rather than a natural occurrence. What did it take for you to realise that there might be something to the term chemtrails as is now widely used?
Well, just looking at the skies and seeing seeing these lines persisting, and I remember as a child we used to see military jets going overhead, and my father would tell me they are condensation trails, and but they would disappear just a few hundred metres after the aircraft. So I'd already noticed it, and I particularly noticed the drop in output from my solar cells. Now, I've done a lot of projects on the island, and my clients also.
Sorry, your solar cells being?
The solar cells which provide energy for the house.
Right, so you were getting a demonstrably provable lower level of output from the equipment?
Absolutely, very variably, but it could be somewhere between 20% and up to 60% less.
That's quite a lot.
It is a lot, yes.
Yeah.
Significant.
I see.
And of course, we never see really clear horizons anymore. We see this whitish haze everywhere. And I think people have got used to it somehow, and they sort of just don't notice. Sometimes you look at the sky, like last Thursday, for example, and the sky was absolutely horrific. White fluffy stuff which does not look anything like natural clouds, but somehow people don't seem to notice. I'm not quite sure why they don't notice, but it's very difficult to talk about this because they just simply don't notice. Sometimes you point at it and they say, "Well, I don't know really." It's a difficult thing, but surprisingly, from today, I notice a lot of people are waking up. And
Yes, I was going to ask you. It's been a year now, so do you see a distinct difference in the awareness of it and the realization of what's happening?
Very definitely. Even to the point where people are actually coming up to the stand today, asking me about chemtrails, rather than just waiting to be told about them. Yes, and they know something themselves, and so I can see that there's been a tremendous awakening in this field.
So people will be wondering when are they going to stop or who's doing it, but more importantly, in the meantime, what can people do to raise the awareness without running the risk of being labelled as a conspiracy theorist, which we've outgrown, I think.
Yes,
Emerging truth we are.
Yeah, emerging truth. This is what it is absolutely now. It's a different field altogether. No doubt it's a good idea to do research, to Google it. Geoengineering is the official term for this program. It's denied by governments and it's denied by even Greenpeace, unfortunately.
Greenpeace denied?
Absolutely, they won't talk about this.
Really?
So obviously it has something to do with how they are funded. Air traffic controllers, which see these things all the time, and they're heavily involved in this, of course, none of those people would ever talk about this, certainly not to the public.
Interesting. I have a friend who I think you might have met who visits here who used to be in the air traffic control business, or still is. When we showed him pictures of jets flying overhead that have left this substance, he thought it was strange that that particular route should have travelled over Lanzarote at all. So it seems as though there is a concerted plan.
It looks as if the land masses of the island are being targeted when they actually turn into the island. I don't think it's only Lanzarote, but I think they are told to spray over populated areas. At least I believe so. But I have no real proof of that.
So what are the leading references on the internet that people can get the lowdown on all of this? I know there's a place on Facebook. Is it Dane Wigington? Is he the man?
Dane Wigington. He has a very interesting site called geoengineeringwatch.org. This is a very good site. It's rather professional, and he is a very strong campaigner in this field. He's based in on the lake next to Mount Shasta. I think it's called Lake Shasta in Northern California. And of course, as we know, California is being very heavily chemtrailed, and this is partly why they've lost most of their rainfall.
Yes, because these systems can steer rainfall and effectively stop food production.
Well, the aluminium particles act like a desiccant. They prevent the precipitation of rain. And I know that militarily this is used for droughting out certain countries that are unpopular, for example, like Iran. Gets its western border heavily chemtrailed because the ex-prime minister or president before the present one, he was constantly denouncing this fact in the United Nations, but of course it was obviously ignored.
Well, just to finish this little clip on an upbeat, we're aware that this has been going on now for some time. Do you see any positive indication in the greater world goings-on that we can actually hope for a positive outcome on this and other matters of human discomfort?
I believe so, because we notice there's a much greater public awareness. For example, we've seen a lot of reactions and national reactions against Monsanto, for example, and banning genetically modified crops and things like this in France, in Russia, for example. Hungary have just thrown out the GM people. And there's a growing awareness of that, and I think that growing awareness also goes with this program of geoengineering and chemtrails. I do believe so. Of course, it's very secret, and it's hard to find out actually who is really behind this. You can go to your local town hall, but you can be quite sure that nobody there is going to know very much about it. Everything is very secret and behind security. And in the airport, where would you go to make a complaint? I don't know. Would anybody really?
Don't they have a
understand?
Chemtrails complaints desk?
Not yet. No, maybe that would be something which would be a good idea to set that up in the car park. Yes.
Yeah, now Barry, I know you follow the world exopolitics, and we know about the financial changes that are going on. Do you want to say? Do you want to tie that into chemicals? I mean, if the balance of power financially changes as it seems to be doing, can we expect chemtrail activity to wane with that process?
I certainly hope so. I hope that the funding would be cut off from this program. I imagine that a lot of contracts that have been signed and things like that, and companies, that manufacture the aerosols, for example, Raytheon or Alcoa, big aluminium companies, they actually manufacture these, or parts of the components of those things. I know that Raytheon owns a lot of the patents, and Raytheon, of course, is a military arms industry, so you wonder, it makes you realise that this is as much a military agenda as it is anything else. One of the main excuses that is being used by the people that are presenting this program is that they're saying that, well, it's for reflecting the sunlight, and they call it SRM, which means solar radiation management. So in other words, trying to reduce the effects of global warming. Of course, this is quite ridiculous, because if you cover the atmosphere with this, it acts as a blanket at night, so it tends to trap the heat. It also does not explain why they spray as much in the afternoon as they do in the morning. So, that is a very mute excuse. But it's interesting that they do have an excuse, and global warming is part of that.
Okay, Barry, well, there's probably many more questions one could ask, and a lot of bigger topics, but I think for the time being we'll call it a day here. And thank you for your efforts in organising the fair. And anyone reading this, please like and share it, and we can work on this to make progress from chemtrails being a thing of the past.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for listening.